Good morning, everybody. This is Andrew here at Marinelli Auto Service. I wanted to talk to you briefly today about something that we encounter from time to time with lug nuts. If you come over here and watch me start installing this guy here, it's going to go on easy at first, and then it's going to start to seize on here to the point where it gets difficult or impossible to turn by hand. So the problem with this scenario when we have this thing threading on here and it seizes, well, yeah, I mean, if you apply enough force to anything, it's either going to move or it's going to break. And the problem is when you put a torque wrench on here, when it takes too much force just to make the thing turn, the torque wrench can think, so to speak, that it's tighter than it really is. Because what happens when you tighten a nut like this onto a stud, these are our lug nut studs, what physically happens to keep things tight is the stud will actually stretch a little bit. Studs and bolts and such will actually stretch. If you over tighten them, sometimes you can see just with the naked eye, if you lay a new bolt next to an old bolt, if they used to be the same size, sometimes you can see that one is visibly a little bit longer than the other. At any rate, these things, as the nuts get run down, that pulls this way on the studs and they physically get a little bit longer. And then of course you've got the threads on the studs linking with the threads inside the nuts, and those will hold really tight together. So again, you want all of that force to go into making the threads lock together and stretch the stud the proper amount to keep things tight. When you're having to use ratchets and such just to run the nuts down, you're already losing force just to make the nut turn. And so that means the nut can be tight overall, but that doesn't necessarily mean it won't vibrate loose again. So the situation with this car is that many of these lug nuts, as I took them off, I could feel and hear that they were not coming off quite right. I could tell that the threads were binding a little bit. These lug nuts here, if I take this off here, again, I'll have to fight with it a little bit to get it off. Here it comes. This is going to go on smooth as butter, just like that. So we're not losing any force to make it turn, and then when this thing tightens down, all of that force is being applied to locking this joint together. That's what we want. The other issue we ran into here, I don't know how well you all can see this, but the taper here where this locks to the rim is damaged. This looks to me like it has been over-tightened multiple times. Either that or it's just not a great design for the lug nut. But we've got this brown part here, a lip here, and then the taper starts. If you look at one of these, we've got a smooth taper across the surface. So that between those two things, there's so many of these lug nuts were binding on the threads, and then the damaged taper areas. Lug nuts for this thing are so cheap, I'm just going to replace all of them. I don't want to take any chances on these wheels coming loose as this customer is driving. And the reality is that I probably could have put all the original ones back on, and they probably never would have come loose. But wheels do occasionally come off. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, you really want him to scrub every time. You know, like if they're doing surgery or whatever, they're doing anything that might be able to get you sick, you want everything to be clean every time. Because, yeah, the one day that doesn't happen, well, you probably would still be okay. But you don't want to take that chance. So here, we don't want to take chances on wheels coming off. You know, even if I do this the rest of my life and retire as a 40-year industry veteran or whatever, I don't want to ever have one wheel come off, ever, because that risks damage to the car. More importantly, it risks people getting hurt or killed and stuff like that. As simple as it may seem to be to put a wheel on, sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated. So we're shooting this video partially for all of you. We hope it's helpful information. And also partially because we're going to use it to show the customer that owns this car why we wanted to replace his lug nut.